If you're an average player, you want to be left alone, all right, because you want to be able to slide by. If you're a good player, you want to be coached. If you're a great player, you want the coach to tell you the truth every day. Did I hustle on that play? Did I make the right read? Did I play the guy with the right leverage? You want to know every play, because you know why? They want to be perfect. Everybody here makes a choice to do one of those three things.
Welcome to the GOAT Consulting Podcast, a podcast dedicated to people striving to be a GOAT, the greatest of all time, serving it up in a way that you can get it in all stages of life.
Hey, I'm Colby Jubenville, and welcome to another episode of the GOAT Consulting Podcast right here in studio in VC Productions in Nashville, Tennessee. We got a great show for you today. We are the GOAT Consulting Podcast. We serve it up like Waffle House in a way that you can get it. In our 20s, they teach us to get in the game. In our 30s, we try to move up in the game. In our 40s, we try to stay in the game because those 30-year-olds are so damn good. In our 50s, we ask ourselves, finally, this is what the research says, what do we really want? What do we really want? John, we're going to talk about that today with you. I know John wants to change that, and we'll talk about that.
I love it.
We are the GOAT. Thank you. We are the GOAT Consulting Podcast. GOATs in sports are easy to see. They're recognized for their greatness. They elevate the play of those around them. But in business, it's people that compete on unique perspective, unique education, and unique experience. What they do gives them energy, and it gives other people energy, creating new levels of challenge and new levels of opportunity. We have one in studio today. We're excited for him to be
your
here.
energy is great today.
I feel
Thank
so
you.
pumped
Wow.
up right
Well,
now.
I mean,
I need a Celsius.
I've got.
Wow.
This is my second one for today.
I'm so thankful
To the
for your
right,
passion and
always.
energy.
Thank you. And vision,
And vision.
and creativity and trust, and the list goes on and on. To the right, as always at the table, he's got his own clothing line. He's got a Sprinter. He's got his 34th employee. He's got a mobile office. My good friend Tyler Burnett. Tyler, we're so glad you're here today representing the 30s. And to the left, the LinkedIn Whisperer, the calming force to our show, the 40s. And he's doing it better than anybody I know. John Byers. John, all the way from Brentwood. And then my good friend, it's actually John's good friend. And that's always what happens is John brings in his good friends and brings them around the table. But we've got a great one today.
He's got a lot of good friends.
He is the founder of the Leadership Lab. He is the driving force behind Sage Hill Counseling. It's easy for me to say. He considers himself a leadership advisor, and just in the 10 minutes of sitting here, I've taken notes and excited to learn more from him. Stephen James, we appreciate you being in the studio with us today.
Thanks, Colby. I'm mostly glad to be here and a little nervous now.
That's a big intro.
Well, we do everything big. John and I have been out to Texas together. We did it big out in Texas, and we're going to do it big today. And we know that you do it big. You did mention that John is one of your favorite criers, and
Best crier
best
I've ever
crier,
met of all
best crier
time.
award. And I
The
want to
GOAT
talk about
crier.
that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But we're
Take it where I
excited for
can.
you to be here. Leadership Lab, Sage Hill Counseling, Leadership Advisor. You're stepping into a space that is so critical and so needed in those people that put themselves out to the world and to lead other people in the way that they do. It's exhausting. It's lonely.
Yeah,
It's challenging.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so we appreciate you being here. This is the easy part for me. I just turn it over to John. But before I do, thank you, Dev Digital.
Yes.
It's not Thanksgiving yet, but it feels like it, and we're so thankful every day. John, you're wearing a green shirt.
Yes,
Usually,
for a reason.
Usually you wear something. Stephen, John always wears a shirt to set the stage and set the mood for the talk for today, but I'm not sure. I see no writing.
Well, Steven's, he is a loyal listener of the show, so he probably knows this already.
Right. Well, that's why I said you're wearing a green shirt
along
today.
with our global audience. But we share that we are Faherty fans, and one of the greatest brands, maybe the greatest brand of all time. In my
Very
opinion.
soft.
Love
Very soft.
Faherty. They're going to do $300 million in sales this year. I feel
Faherty
like
is great. I love their long sleeve button ups too.
Why are they not a brand? Why are they not a sponsor?
I feel like I've probably contributed half of that sales this year, which is only like 3 visits to their store, and it's fantastic. So I wore this shirt for you today.
So
and,
soft.
Yeah,
This is going to be a great episode. It's going to be full of adventure, as I learned from Stephen in the first 5 minutes, that adventure means something is about to happen, and hope means something good is about to happen. And we're excited for the adventure and hope that it goes well here today.
Me too.
We appreciate you being here, and John, I'm going to let you tee it up
I'm
and
going to
take it from there.
Just a couple other things, because I wasn't done with the shirt thing quite yet. When I think think of Faherty, I think of this rustic, cool, yet
It's
very,
California.
yet very
California beach.
Hold on now.
I love
Yet
it.
very soft brand, and that's kind of what I think about you. All at the
Really,
same time.
I'm soft.
Well, no, well,
Tyler,
actually,
you
I
hear
think,
that? I'm soft.
I think he meant. I think he meant.
Tender-hearted.
I think he meant cool,
Tender-hearted.
cool and rustic.
Cool,
cool and rustic.
rustic,
Yes.
tender-hearted.
Adventurous. And
Adventurous.
let me continue with the fact that I think I shared this with you recently. We met 9 years ago, almost, by the way. And I believe that not only my life, but the lives of my children's will be impacted because of you. And the work that we've done together over the years, the work we're doing now in Leadership Lab, is so meaningful to my life and the trajectory that changed. And I'm really grateful for that.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
I'm super curious about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we can talk more. Maybe
Okay.
it'll come out here. But we're here for you, and so glad that you joined us. We've been trying to get this on the calendar for months,
Yeah.
I think, and
Yeah.
you've been in Iceland and all over the
In
planet.
Iceland, I was in Utah. Yeah.
And what do you do there?
I have a lot of adventure. No, I took in Iceland. I met 14 executives, and we rode motorcycles for a week and talked about life and worked our butts off. Like, Iceland's beautiful. It was one of the most epic, gorgeous, raw, genuine places I've ever been.
Huh.
And when you're there, you're definitely there with its permission. Like, it's letting you be there, because it's both fire and ice. It's being formed and falling apart at the same time. We stood between the North Atlantic and European tectonic plates. They're separating about 3 inches a year in each direction, and now they're probably 40 yards apart. And you could just walk down in between them and just kind of be in the middle of that. We saw a volcano. Wow. We saw glacier. We rode. I mean, we did some awesome riding. And then
What time of year did you go?
We were there first week of September. Yeah.
And this is part of the Leadership Lab experience.
Yeah, so
Can you talk more about that?
So Leadership Lab, we partner with a company called Wilderness Collective out of California to do these leadership intensive trips. So we'll usually ride motorcycles. This weekend, I'm going out to the Grand Canyon with some guys from a company to camp on the edge of the Grand Canyon and ride side-by-sides and have a lot of fun and play and freeze our butts off because the weather's going to be awful. But so we'll go to some place that will take people out of their comfort zone, put them in what I call learning posture, so they're open and able to take in new things. Because one of the things, Colby, you mentioned leaders are lonely. One of the ways we become lonely is by staying in the cul-de-sac of our own knowledge and experience. Right? We build these lives that feel secure and successful, but they actually just are we're going around and around and around in circles, not really growing our lives bigger. So leaders that I often encounter have come to a place in their life where they recognize what got them here won't get them where they want to go, but they don't know how to get out of that cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Right? So it could be business growth, life transition, merger acquisition, sales stuff. Like, they're going through a transaction and they need to re-look at their life. And so one of the things we do is take them out to nowhere, take their phones away for 4 or 5, 6, 7 days, and we ride motorcycles or we ride side-by-sides. We do something fun and hard. And then we camp at night, we talk. We have a 4-star chef that comes out there with us, and it's awesome. And it's wonderful. And great conversations. We stay up too late. And
food is such a catalyst, along with all these other things.
yeah, the food is incredible. Like, the food of these things is so good.
So this is the premise of Leadership Lab. I mean, this is
it's like we just kind of condense it into like an experience. We're going to Portugal next year and back to Iceland, Yosemite. So that's not the core of what we do. Those are just like side hustles or side gigs that we're doing, but all of it's about helping leaders become the best version of themselves so they can go and serve and create meaning and purpose for the people that they're leading.
You talked about getting people out of their comfort zone, which is kind of what I've experienced in the 9 years that we've known.
Yeah.
Anytime I've spent time with you over the last 9 years.
Yeah.
And
comfort will kill you.
I love Susan David's quote where she says,
What does she say?
She says the discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life.
Absolutely. Hold on, Susan David.
Yeah.
She's pretty good.
That's really good, John.
I want to hear about, like, as we still unpack a little bit about Leadership Lab, Sage Hill, kind of where you grew up in your world and how you've transitioned to Leadership Lab.
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole lot of discomfort. I would imagine.
Yeah.
And why did you step out of where you have been for most of your career in the counseling in the way that it always was, I guess?
Man, to tell you that, I have to go back like really far. Is that okay if I go back? Really far?
Well, actually, he's supposed to ask a question that allows you to do that. So we're glad that you did.
You can start with that question, which is your favorite childhood memory. Probably not the one that you were going to share.
No.
But you can start
But
there.
certainly an impactful one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was 17 years old, my parents, I'll say this. 17 years old, I was playing the Junior Olympics. Okay. We got to the...
What were you playing?
Soccer.
Okay.
Yeah, soccer. We got to the bronze medal match, won the bronze medal. My parents had come down for the finals, semifinals, finals weekend. There's nothing more disappointing than playing the bronze medal match because you play in the semifinals, right? And the winners go to the gold medal match. The losers, you get an extra game. So you got to stay an extra couple days.
Yeah.
And you're playing for the bronze medal, which actually feels pretty good. I think the bronze medal might feel better than the silver medal. Silver medal, you didn't get the gold.
You went out.
All right, bronze medal, I could tell people the rest of my life. Bronze medal, Junior Olympics, soccer.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? So that experience, it's like a 2-week experience. It was really incredible. I was just turned 17. Get home. The next day, my parents tell my sister and I they're getting a divorce. And it was devastating.
So maybe one of the best memories of your childhood paired with...
Right there, right? And I was a goalkeeper, which is like weird people are goalkeepers in soccer. True. They're like catchers in baseball, except weirder.
Yeah.
You know?
Why is it weird?
Because you don't actually get to play with the team. You're part of the team, but it's like a kicker in
on an island.
football. You're on an island, and you have
High pressure situations.
high pressure. Your job is to stop the other team from scoring a goal.
Yeah.
And my game improved a lot in early high school when I realized and accepted that no matter what happened on the field, if the ball goes in the goal, it's my fault. Like radical responsibility, right? So I took that on, and I love to manage and lead the 10 guys in front of me and organize and yell a lot. I was a very vocal, undersized goalkeeper at 5'9", so I had to make up for it in other ways, like aggression. Always played dirty. I had to, right?
Love it.
Yeah, I love it. So you get the Junior Olympics, get a bronze medal, come home. Next day, my parents tell me they're getting a divorce, and it was devastating. They didn't have a good marriage, and we didn't have a really healthy family. It was as I've come to find out, most high performing people come from early childhood disadvantage.
Absolutely.
And that we if we're high performing or leaders, a lot of that's because we've been having to lead from a very early age. Right? So either from trauma, scarcity, abandonment, neglect, abuse, betrayal, something's happened where we've had to step into a gap.
Survival skills.
Yeah. And our survival skills end up being our calling card.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So so some stuff was happening, some addiction and other things were going on in my family way before that. But that was kind of this moment where it all fell apart, and I knew I was alone, you know, and I needed to make my way in the world, which is a good realization to have, because I know 50-year-old men who've not realized that yet.
Yes.
You know, that they have to make their way in the world.
Yes.
And no one's going to hand them something.
Yep.
But what was created in me was a drive to build things that bring people together and help people grow and become and stay connected together. Right? That was this thing, the seed planted deep in my heart in that heartache. And so, you know, that looked like sports in college. It looked like getting married the day after college. You know, married Heather. So fortunate. Neither one of us had the maturity to get married at 22, 23. But, man, I married so well. Yeah. Like, I would love to take some credit, but thank you.
College where?
I went to Belmont.
Played
at Belmont.
soccer.
Yeah, played Belmont.
Okay.
You seemingly have like paired these significant moments in your life really close to one another.
Well, they kind of. I liked ride hard and don't die. You know, go fast, don't die. So like jump ahead. You know, my first job was in marketing and PR and all that, and because I needed a job, I real quickly found out that I just it for me was whether I was good at it or not, it was dragging my soul down. Like I just wasn't meaningful for me. It wasn't. I had a decent job at a really young company where I got to do a lot of things and learn a lot, but I was in leadership. I was 23 years old, running a team of like 7, 8 people. Like that's crazy.
Prime leadership. Peak right
God.
there at 23.
We hired
right?
a side note. We just hired another employee at Leadership Lab. She started yesterday. Yesterday was her first day of her first job.
Unbelievable.
Oh, it's so fun. I thought she would. I
You
just
don't
have her
even have to
following
like
us.
unlearn things
No,
at that point.
and so we're stopping at meetings today. Like we're in our leadership team meeting today. We run traction, so we're doing our ELT meeting today. Before I came over here, and
You do the book traction.
yeah, and we run the traction process in our company.
Okay, cool.
So
I'm reading that book right now.
awesome. It's we work with big companies, small companies, like how to integrate some of that stuff. But it's a great operating system.
Okay, cool.
It doesn't answer all the questions about business, but it gives you a structure to begin to play well. So we were in our traction meeting, and I would have to stop and explain, like, hey, a KPI is a key performance indicator. So we're looking at our scorecard, and we're looking at our lead indicators, and I was having to explain to her, this is what a KPI is. And I'm thinking, like, no one did that for me. I had to go figure it out on
That's
my own.
right. Yeah.
Right? So I was like, I'm so excited to have this young, enthusiastic, hardworking person on my team.
Yeah.
But it's like we would stop in the meeting and then go, okay, here's what this means. Here's what a rock is. Here's what all this stuff. So it was so fun. Anyway, so I recognized looking back that I was student body vice president, junior class vice president, president of the youth group, president of youth and government in high school, president of Model United Nations for the state of Tennessee in high school, captain of the soccer team in college. My first dream was to be a soccer coach, professional soccer coach. So I coached at Belmont. I had club teams. I started building teams. I had 3 or 4 assistant coaches working underneath me. But it wasn't meaningful enough for me. And I found out you couldn't make much money being a soccer coach. Like the upward trajectory was like really hard. And there's very few people that were doing well in it financially. And to advance, you had to move all the time. And we were Nashville people. Like our roots run deep here. I met Heather at Belmont. We're both from Middle Tennessee. Like we wanted to be here. So as I started dreaming about what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be in the world, I knew I wanted to run my own thing. Like I knew I don't. Yeah. I kind of need to do that. And that's just. I do not anymore think leaders are better than followers, because if you're leading and no one's following you, that's called being alone. And so followers are actually more important than leaders. There's some research being done now on followership, but there's very little about followership. There's a lot on leadership. I think we need to be thinking about how to teach people to be really engaged followers, like how to give their heart, their head, their hands to something. But anyway, I've been leading since I was, looking back, like 8, 9, 10 years old in different contexts.
Wow.
And so I don't know how not to assign myself extra responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Like I see a gap, I want to step into it. One of the things I'm learning as I approach 50 is how to like unwind responsibilities. Just because there's a gap, it doesn't mean it's mine.
Yeah.
Just because somebody called, I have to say no. Like
Right.
no is my favorite word right now, because it leaves room for better yeses. And we went.
So many times you're scared you're not going to get another yes, so you say yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
And we could talk about abundance mindset all day long, but when the rubber hits the road,
You only have a certain amount of time.
right? It's like I get scared. It's like, where's that next thing coming from? It's like, but if you're not practicing abundance, and you're not living and leading open-handedly, like the natural state of the hand from a baby when it's born is a grasp, and that's a first journey thing. What can I grab hold of? Do I have what it takes? How do I climb this mountain? As we get towards midlife, we have to start to learn if we can learn it earlier, it's great. It tends to happen for people in midlife, where they have to start learning to pry their own hands open and live in the abundance of what they have, and not try to squeeze the life out of it. 'Cause that's what happens if you hold too tight, you squeeze the life out of things. And then you can't ever take something out so something better can be put in, right? So you stay in that cul-de-sac of just like doing the same thing over and over again, and nothing really grows.
Would you relate that to taking a piece of pie instead of making the pie bigger for everybody?
Yeah. Or just like, let's start a bakery.
Yeah.
Let's just make a bunch of dang pie.
Yeah.
You know, like
Instead of make the pie bigger, let's start a bakery.
Let's just start a
yeah,
bakery.
right. That's how you got to think though, right?
Yeah.
Like you could make the pie bigger, but let's start a bakery.
Yeah.
Man.
So
what kind of pie do you
Bunch
want?
of pies.
So I'm gonna finish my story, John.
Please,
Hold on.
that's what I was gonna say. So please finish.
So that led to me, going and get a counseling degree, which was a weird path. I did not mean to end up becoming a licensed professional counselor, but that job pays. I started a private practice. I did that for almost 20 years. And then I began to transition out of that. Started a counseling center, mentioned Sage Hill. Out of that grew from 0 to 4 counseling centers really quick. And I basically got an MBA, a CPA, and a dumbass degree in about 3 years. Because I just learned a lot about what it means to lead.
Yeah.
And grow a business and made every mistake you can make.
Yep.
Like made them all. Right.
Oh,
I did not do that. One of the guys in Leadership Lab said last week when he was starting his second business, he built a business, sold it, building another business, was short on cash, wrote himself a paycheck, and went to the payday loan place so he could get cash to put it on the paycheck.
Wow.
So he could do payroll. I've never done that.
Yeah.
But
putting compounding interest at a whole new level.
that's called going to jail. That's
Yeah.
called fraud.
Yeah.
But I think entrepreneurs do crazy things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like our relationship with risk is really different compared to other people. That doesn't
All right,
make.
we're gonna talk about that. So
Okay.
don't go down
I won't-
that path.
okay.
That's
So-
a great.
So as I built Sage Hill Counseling, what I was recognizing was how lonely I was, and most of my clients. So I was recognizing how lonely I was, and I was also recognizing how burned out I was working in mental health world.
And
Yeah.
aren't those two things like two of the biggest drivers around, or that we find, maybe I should say, in the C-suite these days?
Yeah. So, yes, leadership is lonely. And so if you don't have a Knights of the Round Table peer experience where you can take your armor off and be encouraged, engaged, challenged, confronted, held accountable, like celebrated.
Such as Leadership Lab.
Yeah. There's
Yep.
also some awesome other great things. But yes, if you don't have that, you're going to lead alone. And lonely leaders make bad decisions because they end up only seeing the world their way. Right. So that's, you got to be connected. And then the harder you try to make that thing work that way, the more burned out you're going to become. And burnout, the number one driver of burnout is a lack of meaningfulness, not fatigue. If you're doing something that means something to you, you can go hard
For a long time.
for a long time.
Yeah.
The minute it starts being exhausting, I mean, you have to take breaks, but you start like being soul weary around it, it's lost its meaning, and you have to look for a different. So you have to change your environment, make more pie. You got to create something more meaningful.
Yeah.
And so that's what was happening with Sage Hill. I was, as a clinician, burning out. Right. I'm a growth mindset, improve, get better at it. I'm a high responsibility, high conscientious person. And I was building teams of therapists. I was building a company, and my therapeutic work was starting to diminish. And I'd worked with professional athletes and professional sports teams and recording artists. Like I'd reached the top of that career, and I'd heard so many negative stories, like so much heartache and so much despair and just so much that I needed to get away from it.
Do you remember the trigger event that made you say, I can't do this?
So my
anymore?
work was sloppy
It was.
because I'm over here teaching what great work looks like,
And you're not doing it.
and I'm not doing it, and that bothers me to no end.
Yeah.
Conscious you talked about.
Yeah, and so I've got some advisors in my life, and I went and started talking to them about that, and they were like, "Well, what else would you do?" I'm like, "Maybe I'll be a financial advisor, or real estate developer." Like I was thinking, I was getting way outside.
Oh, wow.
Well, what happened was a couple of my clients are running companies, and one guy said, "Hey, can you come? Our management team is not functioning well. Can you come do like a marriage counseling session for our management team?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I went in. I was like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
And I could charge what? I
Yeah.
mean, it really was like, it's a different, because you're creating a different value proposition.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I sent an email out. I went back and started thinking, and sent an email out to a bunch of people I knew, or business leaders, saying, "Hey, I'm going to start a group, and we're going to meet a day and a half, a quarter. We want to come and talk about life and work and how those two intersect. Come on." And it was hard to tell people not to come. And that was the beginning 8 years ago of Leadership Lab, of like trying to understand, do a lot of research. Like I go into the lab and do a lot of research about what it means to lead well. What does it mean to engage your story in a meaningful way? How do you create a context for other people to find meaning and purpose in the world? Because I think leadership is a sacred, virtuous act. It's not just functional. And so if we're doing it well, we actually make the whole world better. And there's some ways, there's some techniques and art around that, but there's also a mindset around that. And the heaviness of what we're doing can't just be about money. It can be, but it's really hard to lead that.
Yeah.
We know a global research study found that when people are looking for a different job, they're unhappy, and they start thinking about a different job, the number one thing they're missing is a lack of meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
Number two is direct professional development and mentoring.
Yep.
Number three is money.
Yeah.
So if you can provide 1 and 2, guess how insignificant money becomes to somebody. Right? It changes what people really, they need enough money to answer questions about their lives, and to, money's important, but money's just a resource. It allows us to do things and help people and help ourselves and provide some safety. It doesn't answer what's life about. It doesn't make the struggle worth it, And so that's what a leader does, right?
Yeah.
And so as I started Leadership Lab, it kind of sprouted out of my own desire to not be lonely as a leader and to get feedback. There are other programs like EO, YPO. I've been around, spoken at a lot of those events, and they're actually incredible. But what's missing in those is those don't address the human heart. And so we were talking before, we have this iceberg model that we really think that strategy and operations are like 10% of the iceberg, and the 90% of what's below the waterline is like who you are and how you relate with people.
Sure.
And so leaders need to spend 90% of their time working on that, so they can spend the 10% of the time working on the strategy and operations that actually inform how people show up in something. Right?
Love it.
And most leaders are ineffective or exhausted because I've done this. We flip it. How do I come up with a better policy or better procedure to account for the fact that like all my team comes to work, they take these stray cats out of their emotional sack every day and let them run around the office.
As opposed to bringing the guy in and saying, "Hey, let's talk about what's really going on here."
Yeah, what's really happening?
Yeah,
like I was with a company. They've got a senior level guy at a company, and he parks in the visitors' parking spot. It's like, get the guy in here. Like, he's not a leader.
Yeah.
Like, has anybody told him?
Yeah.
That's a customer spot.
And how many conversations do you think there are about the guy parking in the visitor spot? Probably 100. Can you believe Bill parks in the visitor spot? I can't believe he's doing that. This is going to bring this company to an end. I cannot believe they allow this to go on here.
Right. I said, was anybody told Bill?
Right.
They're like, no. Well, let's go tell Bill.
Yeah.
I don't think Bill wants to be a jerk.
Hey, Bill, come walk down here.
Yeah, let's
explain.
What did he say?
He nodded on the outside, but guess what happened the next week?
What
Quit.
He parked in the visitor spot again.
Oh, okay, keep going. And
Bill.
So what does that mean? What do y'all think that means? I don't think so.
No?
I think this guy is
He
not a
didn't
fit.
understand the importance?
Not a fit for that culture. He's
What
not.
what fit of what culture would he be then? Because that wouldn't fit any culture.
It fit a culture of him. First one, first served.
One parking spot in his driveway,
It would
maybe.
fit a culture of free agents, a group of free agents
Yeah.
that get together and operate in a free agent way.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not customer centric, not
Yeah.
client focused.
Relational.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to pull us in here for just a second because I don't want to waste asking one of the ways that we honor our guests is we ask them to give us their own definition of a goat and then share a goat.
You know what's coming.
Well, I never know what's coming actually with you. However, I don't want to cut that short, so I think based on where we are, I think we may need to land the plane and then start if you can stick around, let's
Yeah,
start the back
around.
half of this conversation with those two.
Yeah, I think that.
When do you ask me about my music list?
That's at
We're
the,
getting
that's
there.
at the end. That's
See, he
at
is
the
he
end.
is a loyal listener.
Well, yeah.
about
So adventure, as you describe it, is something is about to happen, and what is about to happen is we're going to take a pause. This is Tyler's favorite part of the show, and we're going to come
Pisses
right
me
back
off.
in for part 2 with our good friend Stephen James. For Tyler Burnett, John Byers, and Stephen James, and Mikey over there on the board. I'm Colby
Mikey.
Jubenville, and this is the Go Consulting Podcast.